Hey, thanks for stopping by. If this is your first time here, Untitled Chapter is a pop culture podcast where we evaluate what African movies and TV shows show and tell us about society. The themes we commonly touch on are race, class, gender, and sexuality, all through a social justice lens. We pick out a movie or TV show that I enjoyed watching, and each week we cover a different theme before moving on to the next show. Currently, we're looking at drum rolls. Namaste Wahala. Namaste Wahala is a Nigerian romantic comedy that was released in 2021. It's the story of Chidinma, aka Didi, and Raj. Didi is a Nigerian lawyer, and Raj is an Indian investment banker or some money type thing like that. They meet in the cheesiest way you ever saw, fall in love, their parents crump their stuff by saying hell no, they fight, break up, cue a heartbreak montage to revel the best of them. Then sufficient time passes, things happen and they make up. Hello, happily ever after, yay! Namaste Wahala will be a 6-part review. The 6 key themes we'll look at are 1. Fat girls and sex, 2. Capitalism and relationships, black tax in particular, 3. Capitalism and relationships, on succession in particular, 4. Gender and housework, 5. Violence against women, and 6. Relationships, love and romance. Hope you enjoyed as much as I enjoyed making it. One of the aspects of the film I was really interested in right from the start is the narratives woven about the fat character, Angie, who, full disclosure, is my favorite character on the show. Angie is a fat girl, and she's Didi's best friend, carrying on in a long tradition of the slim girl's fat best friend. Let's talk about fat girl tropes. The fat best friend is a common trope in entertainment and has 3 common manifestations, shall we say. Type A is a big, fun, brash, outspoken, sometimes grass character. She's the extroverted jokester compared to the uptight, tactful, slim main character. She's funny and confrontational and doesn't care about losing weight. For women, this trope is almost always accompanied by a prolific sex life. Think Fat Amy from Pitch Perfect, Kelly Prenny, Issa's friend on Insecure, Issa McCarthy in almost anything except Mike and Molly and Gilmore Girls.
You can't begin to know it, how much we really care. I hear your voice inside me, I see your face everywhere. Still you say we belong to thunder.
Come on, I joined this group so I could hang out with a bunch of really cool chicks. And also because I was really sick of all my boyfriends and I need to get away from that.
I think we all know where this is going.
Let's be honest.
It's a shame to be all closed-minded and ignorant.
I'm just saying, sometimes people can surprise you. Like Nathan. He surprised the shit out of me. Is Nathan the black one? Kelly, can you learn a nigga's name for once? You are not fucking my man.
Which one is Andrew? Is he the black one or the Asian one?
The Asian one.
Good, because I've been fucking the black one a lot. I'm not trying to have a Coachella repeat, and I'm not trying to fight any more white bitches until after the movie is over, okay?
But you still fighting pregnant bitches, or?
Oh, girl, no. Tiffany made her the godmother.
Now, if she died, I gotta take the baby.
Wouldn't Derek get the baby?
Is that how it works? I hope so, because if I wanted a kid, I would have kept the last one. wait. Finkel? What about your man? The tiny nigga from Coachella. Girl, that nigga was on some DJ Khaled shit, didn't want to go down on me. So I told him, you ain't smart. You ain't a genius, okay?
Type B is the shrinking violet. This fat best friend knows they're fat, and it's one of their biggest insecurities. They're shy, awkward, and generally have a low self-esteem. A good example is Samuel Turley, Jon Snow's best friend from Game of Thrones. Sam has a terrible self-esteem as a result of being constantly belittled by his father and brothers too, if I'm not wrong. Type C is the ditz. This fat best friend can be profoundly stupid or simply airheaded and plain weird. They may have some type A traits like being extroverted and may speak or walk slowly. A good example would be the weird and eccentric Gibby from iCarly. Angie, Didi's best friend, is type A. She's funny, snarky, extroverted, and doesn't appear to care about her weight. Like other fat best friends before her, she doesn't quite have a boyfriend, and even the one she may or may not have is not shown on screen, and we're not told much about him, which is in keeping with the trope. Often though, as in Angie's case, our character is framed as really being out there and doing the most when it comes to racking up notches on the bedpost, so to speak. One of the first scenes we have of Angie is in her apartment, where she's wailing about her boyfriend leaving her. A guy who even her best friend Didi did not know was her boyfriend. Didi actually named some other guy, which is the first hint we're given that our girl Angie is out there juggling the fellas with the best of them. Angie's hurt that she's gotten dumped in general. But she has some specific grievances. She's upset about the fact that she was out there, 1, cooking for him, 2, paying his bills, 3, sending his mother money, and 4, engaging in all that sex. We'll talk about cooking for him and the way Namaste Wahala frames housework in another segment of this video. For now, let's talk about sex and the way society speaks to women about it, especially fat women. Angie talks about sex as something she did for that man, and something she went out of her way to do really well for him. She did a lot, y'all, including sex in acrobatic positions, upside down, which, yeah, that's a lot. The issue here is the way we continue to frame sex as something women do for men, like cooking and cleaning and paying his bills. It's something you do for him and not for yourself. Sexual desire in our culture remains this thing that all normal men have in abundance. The only women who have comparative sexual desire are slightly promiscuous types. It's constantly reinforced that sex is something men do and enjoy constantly. But just you wait until a woman claims to like and enjoy sex that much. She's branded with a scarlet A, or is it S now? Pick up any Cosmo or women's magazine and you will be reminded that sex is something women do for men and that they have to do well or risk losing said men. This means keeping it fresh and exciting and keeping up with the latest advancements in blowjobs and sexual positions to keep your man fulfilled. In Angie's case, that meant acrobatic upside-down sex. Whatever it takes because men are visual and sexual beings, blah blah blah. Women's sexuality is only spoken of and only acceptable when it's in the service of men. The literal service of men. This whole idea of tying women's sexuality to the service of men denies women a critical part of themselves. It keeps women from embracing the fact that they're sexual beings, keeps them from being adventurous and curious about their own sexual needs and desires. There's an episode of the Carmichael Show in which they talk about pornography and by extension masturbation.
Do you have any fetishes?
I'm not doing this with you, Maxine.
Or like a favorite porn star?
Ariana Marie.
Who's that?
Actually, it's a tie between her and Alexis Texas. They're both from Texas. Actually, Ariana is from Clearwater, Florida. She grew up in Texas, though. She's like 5'4", dark hair, green eyes. You know the type.
Wait, do you have this girl's rookie card or something?
Oh. Also, I really like Danny Daniels. She's really funny on Instagram.
Oh, you follow her on Instagram?
Yep. Oh, honorary mention, Cassidy Banks and Harley Dean.
Well, Gerard, women have just as much need and desire as men. This might surprise you to hear, but I watch porn too.
You watch porn? When are you finding all the time to watch these real people have sex anyway?
I don't know, like last night.
Last night? I was here last night.
Yeah, I know you were home. I drew myself a bath, had a little me time. You were asleep.
Well, why didn't you wake me up? Think I could have helped you out with that, Maxine. You wake me up for everything. You woke me up because you thought you solved making a murderer.
Are you really uncomfortable with the idea of me watching porn?
No, I'm not uncomfortable. I'm just worried about you having all these products near the bathtub. It voids the Apple Care.
So you're just gonna take all my Apple products?
Steve Jobs didn't die for this. No, but she doesn't just watch it. She like sneaks off and does it while I'm still at home.
You telling me that Maxine watches porn while her able-bodied boyfriend is available in the next room?
Yes. Thank you.
Now, clearly, you need sex advice. Now, you came to the right place. You see, son, good sex is all about the calf muscle.
Nope. I am not here.
This is a disaster. You know, you may want to consider the possibility that you just bad at sex.
No, Dad. I'm not bad at sex.
Well, let me see your calves.
No. Are you serious right now? Do you really think that maybe Maxine isn't satisfied?
Drop, if your mama makes me dinner and I sneak out the house for a cheeseburger, I'm unhappy with my dinner. Maxine is unhappy with her dinner. Capiche?
Yeah. Maxine, am I bad at sex?
First of all, close the door.
Gerard casually admits to watching porn and has a whole list of his top porn stars at the tip of his tongue. But when Maxine admits to watching it, he suddenly has reservations about it. When he finds out that she has me time, where she takes care of herself, sometimes even when he's in the house, he spirals and wonders if he's bad at sex. She actually has to tell him that women have comparative sexual desire and explain that sometimes you just want something different. Sometimes you want to play team sports, and other times you're good on your own. We have a million movie jokes about teen boys masturbating and so few about women exploring their own sexual pleasure. The only female teen masturbation jokes I can think of are on sex education. There's one where Vivo Dusanya is having some me time in the bathroom in school. Then someone in one of the other stalls starts to download some really strong stuff that interrupts her fun times. The other one is the one where Amy spirals after her boyfriend tells her that what he's into is girls enjoying themselves during sex, not faking it. She goes to Otis and he asks her what she enjoys on her own, to which she says, "Ew, I don't do that." Then Otis prescribes a wank, and boy does Amy follow instructions. She does it so much that the next day she walks up to Otis, hair all rumpled up, and says she's been wanking so much she's afraid her clit will fall off. Most women like Amy don't even touch themselves because of the ingrained societal shame and guilt associated with it. It's why so many women believe masturbation is something that only boys or men do. Society works overtime to keep women from embracing their sexuality and pursuing sexual pleasure, insisting that it's only right when you're doing it to make babies or for a man. This idea that sexual pleasure is exclusively for men results in things like the orgasm gap and women lying about achieving orgasm when they haven't because they just don't view their own sexual pleasure as a priority. They have been socialized not to view it as a priority. The orgasm gap refers to the fact that in heterosexual sexual encounters, men consistently have more orgasms than women. Heterosexual women have the fewest orgasms of all pairings and are at the very bottom of the list. Heterosexual men, this will not come as a surprise to anyone, are at the very top of the list. Heterosexual men orgasm 95% of the time, gay men come in at 89%, bisexual men 88% of the time, lesbian women 86% of the time, bisexual women 66% of the time, and heterosexual women come in last at 63 to 65% of the time when with a familiar partner. One study found that the figure for heterosexual women can go as low as 39% of women achieving orgasm during sexual encounters. Also worth noting, heterosexual women have more orgasms when they masturbate than during partnered sex. Here's a word problem for you. Lesbians, high orgasms, bisexual women, lower orgasms, heterosexual women, lowest orgasms. I submit to you the problem may be the penis and the men attached to them. It's the fact that men have also internalized society's messaging about the supremacy of their sexual pleasure, and by extension, penetrative sex, which really doesn't do it for many women. We're a society that prioritizes men's orgasms and needs at every turn, and that needs to change. It gets much worse for our fat girl Angie. Angie's at her house having fun times with some new man when her best friend's mother shows up looking for her best friend Didi, who is currently sequestered in her boyfriend's house after running away from home. Long story. Anyway, our girl Angie answers the door in a robe hinting at her spectacular boobage. Her impatient lover is in the bedroom, urging her to rush back to their kinky fun. Didi's mother looks at Angie, fidgets with her robe, then says, "I kid you not, nobody buys the cow when they can get the milk for free. I would play it for you, but the copyright gods was like, hell no." She looks Angie in the face, and with her entire chest says, "At some point, you will have to stop this frolicking. Nobody buys the cow when they can get the milk for free." What is this, if not a brazen attempt to shame her for her sexuality and pursuit of sexual pleasure? Hello, fat shaming our old friend. Somehow, fat women have it worse when it comes to being shamed for their pursuit of sexual pleasure. For some reason, fat women are framed as desperate for men's attention and therefore willing to bang and be banged by any willing man who gives them the tiniest scrap of attention. You've heard the jokes about fat women not being sexually desirable and only getting some action from drunk men who realize the next day that they went home with a 2 that they thought was a 6. Somehow, fat women are both sexually undesirable and alarmingly promiscuous. Go figure. It is constantly reinforced to us that fat women are not sexually desirable, with messaging going as far as suggesting that they are not deserving of sex until they lose weight and fit society's standards about what is considered desirable. I have had women being advised not to gain too much weight after getting married, or being advised to lose post-baby weight fast lest they turn their husbands off and push them into the arms of the size 8 women out there. This interaction serves to remind us, just in case we had forgotten from our earlier conversation with Didi, about Angie's endless frolicking with men. And then she's told about cows and milk. That whole nobody buys the cow thing is problematic on so many levels. First of all, what's with viewing women as objects that can be purchased and owned? Second, why is sex something that diminishes women's value and desirability, but not men's? It's like men bang you, and now you're in what shit? If there's something about coming into contact with a dick that somehow diminishes a woman's value, then friends, maybe it's something wrong with the dick, not the woman. Assuming that getting bought is getting married and not having your milk just haphazardly drunk for free, why is marriage the goal of romantic relationships? It's assumed that marriage is synonymous with commitment, which anyone who's even half conscious and looking at our society knows is faulty logic. The fact that a couple stood in front of people and signed a special government paper promising not to bang other people doesn't mean shit. There really is no glory in being the cow that was bought. You'll just be milked along with other cows and maybe even a few bulls that you may or may not know about. Then there's the idea that women's decisions, women's choices should revolve around what men want and consider acceptable so that they can get bought, picked. You never hear men being threatened with not being chosen by women if they do something, but women always have this sword of Damocles hanging above their heads about how they won't be picked. And the list is long. Don't look a certain way, don't talk a certain way, don't be in a certain income bracket, don't have a certain body count, don't be a certain body size. Women hear it all the time. It's insane how much power rests in the hands of men. Women are just standing there, twiddling their fingers, waiting to be picked. It's like society doesn't want women actively picking. The full extent of women's choice is supposed to be picking from among the men who have expressed an interest in you. Meanwhile, men get to go out there and shoot their shot without being limited only to the women who approach them first. Until recently, it wasn't socially acceptable for women to ask men out, and it still largely remains something only a few women dare to do. It's also on men to decide when they're ready to get married and then ask women. Women don't exercise as much choosing and decision power as men do, and this power imbalance permeates every part of heterosexual relationships. It's really nuts what we ask women to do in this society. It's like whatever men want is what women have to be. Jill Scott said it best in her fantastic poem, Nothing is for Nothing.
This poem is called Nothing is for Nothing. If you feel it, holler when you hear it. I had been turning tricks longer than I actually knew it. Being whatever they wanted me to be, whenever they wanted me to be it. A freak. Inside, outside, kitchen counters, laundromats, 2 at a time, hotels, motels, and back seats of leased cars, vans, and Jeeps. Made myself like it, because they liked it. And I liked that they liked it, so I continued being the perfect image of a wet dream. Nasty, wild, exotic, erotic. Freak was what they wanted, so freak was who I was. And everybody was walking around talking about me. Like teenage pregnancy wasn't becoming synonymous with being black and woman. Like America wasn't suffocating our thoughts. Like there was nothing to talk about but what I was doing or screwing. And I thought the whole damn thing was ridiculous, which it was. Because I was content giving my men a little heaven between their struggle to breathe and contemplation of suicide. Wasn't I good for the cause? Closed mind, open legs, making niggas forget why they so damn angry. Wasn't I good? Then the mood swung as well, the tempo, and I became an ideal. So they want her pretty and docile, caring and stupid. And there I was on your Mark, Seth, Joe, and I was Susie Homemaker on the hunt for love. Cooking and cleaning, ironing, faithful and a freak, because that's what they liked. And I liked being what they liked, so what they liked was who I was. A prostitute. Selling my soul for emotional gain. Struggling not to be the third generation of lonely women in my family. Struggling to gain, but gaining nothing but confusion, frustration, illusion, and emptiness, because there was no love, just empty condom wrappers on the floors to be discarded like me. A prize performer long before I actually knew it, too, because I was faking me out of the me I would become. The me that I see now. The me who holds on to herself with both hands and all feet. The me who must have love and give it. The me who brings more to the table than good looks in a wet hole. The me that is confident and intelligent and filled to the brim with respect for me. And a freak. Because that's what I like. And I like being what I like. And what I like is all a part of what I am. Thank you.
Doubtless, there are people who would argue that the cow's and milk comment was not in bad faith. Let's consider the validity of that argument. A good faith argument for why someone who likes and respects you would compare you to bovine on sale for the express purpose of being milked is that they're trying to protect you. Protect you from men who only want to use you for sex and then leave you high and literally dry. Women have long been viewed as conquests for men who will do and say anything to get into women's pants and then leave them immediately after getting off. Heterosexual relationships have an inherent imbalance with women, usually the commodity being consumed by men. We've all had comments like, if a man paid for dinner, the woman owes him sex. The good faith here is that women who are telling you about cows and milk are doing so to protect you by reminding you to be careful because men are swine. Apologies to pigs everywhere. Except it's not the same. Be careful and wary of men is not the same as if you give the milk for free, nobody will buy the cow. The thing about language is you have to say what you mean or it's just nonsense. And the truth is when people talk about women and cows, they're talking about women's worth being linked to their sexual pursuits or lack thereof, and the diminished interest men will have in wifing them as a result. Diddy's mother doesn't say that to Angie because she's concerned that the fella in the bedroom may be taking advantage of her. We know that there was no good faith because Chidinma, her own daughter, is presently at her boyfriend's place where we have seen her in various states of undress. She's obviously, demonstrably, giving away the milk for free. When her mother eventually finds her, she doesn't say boo to her about cows and milk. Not one word about it when it's obvious Diddy and Raj have been sexually intimate. What's the difference? Isn't her daughter also giving away the milk to a fellow who's yet to buy the cow? The only time Diddy is shamed for sex is by her wicked witch of the West, soon-to-be mother-in-law, which is another argument for why such things are not said in good faith. In a capitalist society, capitalist logic seeps into everything and relationships are not exempt. Somehow there's something transactional about sex. One day we'll talk about how Nawal El-Sardawi and others have made the argument that all sex is transactional, with the only difference being prostitutes are paid in cash and others are paid in kind or not at all. For now, let's talk about cows being bought. Women are encouraged to withhold the milk until they get the commitment in the form of marriage. Marriage, which is often an economic decision in a society in which most of the wealth is in the hands of men. The logic that somehow men come to own women in marriage is why marital rape was not considered a real problem for a long time. Most religious traditions, like Christianity and Islam, strongly discourage denying your spouse sex, even framing it as sinful and or displeasing to God. Women's value is not tied to sex and how much or how little of it they've had. It's also not tied to men's perception of them or their desirability in their eyes. Women are not commodities to be purchased and owned by men. Women can also want and enjoy milk, milking others, and being milked. And can we just stop with shaming women and fat women in particular for pursuing their sexual pleasure? If that woman had said that cow thing to me, I'd be like, I know. I keep telling them to stop giving it away for free or I won't buy the bulls. and they just refuse to listen to reason. What would you do? What would you do? Until next time, guys. Remember who you are. Love life. Love people. Stay lonely.